So I'm sort of writing a fairy tale retelling. Kind of. Not really. A little bit. It's very, very loosely inspired. However, it's a perfect excuse to research fairy tales, which I will admit I love doing. So I thought I'd start a new video series about all the weird facts I'm learning while researching my novel. They won't all be on the same topic. In fact, I think my next one is about the Spanish influenza, which is a pretty big departure from fairy tales. But if you like learning fun facts and seeing me in weird costumes, then subscribe and stick around. Anyways, I've been doing a lot of research and I've come to a conclusion. Most fairy tale princes are jerks. Most have been purified or cleansed by Disney, but the source material reveals some not so wonderful dudes. When they announced Rapunzel was getting her own Disney debut, I was a little curious because her story is probably the least kids appropriate of them all. Her prince repeatedly climbs up into her tower for weeks on end. Every day for weeks. And his plan for her to escape was to tie pieces of silk together that he'd bring her every day, just a tiny little piece, instead of, using that giant rope growing out of her head that he used to climb in every day. But the stupidity of that plan isn't what gives them up. Their plan is ruined when Mother Gothel asks Rapunzel why she needs her dress let out. And Rapunzel's like, oh, I guess I ate a lot. But the answer is clearly instead that she's pregnant. Which means that this prince was coming to her tower every day for a booty call instead of sending his armed guards to let her free. That's not cool! That's not a nice thing to do to a maiden! But he's not the only messed up prince. Lots of them are just as creepy. Snow White's prince kisses what looks like to be a dead body with no prior indication that that would wake her up in front of all of her mourning friends. And Cinderella's prince, he had every maiden in town try on her shoes. Every maiden in town. I mean, I know there wasn't much diversity in the Middle Ages, but certainly not everybody looked alike. He couldn't even recognize the general body structure, hair color, or some facial features of the woman he was supposedly in love with. The Beast literally keeps Belle captive. At least in Rapunzel, the prince wasn't directly responsible for her imprisonment. He was just really neglectful. And John Smith thought all natives were savages until he fell for Pocahontas. How is that even remotely okay? I don't hate fairy tales, you guys, actually. I totally love them. And I actually think it's pretty good that princes are flawed because children need to know that people aren't perfect, not even Prince Charming. And sometimes these flaws are just hilarious. My favorite fairy tale, The Little Mermaid, is no exception. The prince is either self-centered and willfully blind, or the most sarcastic prince in fairy tales, either of which is very interesting to me. When the prince learns his parents want him to be married off to a princess from a neighboring kingdom, he tells the mermaid that I have to see this girl, but I won't marry her because I couldn't love anybody but the girl who saved me from certain death, and you remind me of her. You're the only one that even slightly reminds me of her, and you are so kind and so fair, and you're so nice to me. You're so devoted. If I could choose any bride, I'd choose you. And then he runs his hand through her hair, and she rests her head on his chest, and they literally stare out into the sunset. They stare out into the sunset. I'm not kidding, that actually happens in the story. It's just a perfect moment. And he's basically proposing. And then the next day, he meets the other princess, and it turns out she's the girl that he thinks saved him. And so he tells the princess, and I'm actually going to quote directly from the story. I'm not kidding, this is exactly what he says. He says, "You must be so happy for me because your devotion to me is so great and sincere." So he's basically saying, you are the most devoted person, so you should be so happy that I'm marrying another girl. Which I have to believe is either history's greatest example of looking a gift horse in the mouth, or the most sarcastic thing said in any fairy tale ever. Because if he realized how ridiculous he sounded by saying, aren't you so happy I'm marrying someone else, my darling that I literally proposed to last night, then that puts the whole story in a new light. The Little Mermaid is a tragic story of unrequited love, but what if it was a tragic story of unrequited love on both sides? What if the prince actually loved the mermaid, but couldn't tell if she returned his feelings because she couldn't speak? That would be doubly tragic and doubly awesome. I love when things are super sad. But he could also just be a massive jerk. Either way, it's fun to think about. What creeps you out about fairy tales? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe if you want more weird research videos in my attempt to write this novel. Thanks, you guys. I'll see you soon. Bye!